So today we'll have a look at a few things we can try with track and hold. Recently VCV released the process module, which has a track and hold section here. All of the ideas we will have a look at today and many more are available in the patching techniques and ideas document that I continue updating with lots of different things you can experiment with and examples in VCV Rec 2. Right, so let's quickly go through what is track and hold. Basically, track and hold will track a signal and will hold it when a gate goes up. So here the signal is a sine wave. Right, this is going to the input of the process module, and from the track and hold output we get basically, and you can see this here on the scope, we get the same signal. It just goes through, and when a gate goes up and as long as it stays open, the track and hold will hold this voltage, will hold this value until the gate goes down. So here I have a gate that I can open manually. Right, so when I click and hold, you see the LFO is static. There is one value that will keep on staying there until I let go of the gate. And when it goes up again, right, the track and hold will hold this signal. So again, it will track the signal. It will let the signal through until the gate is high, and then it will hold the signal until the gate goes down. In this case of the process module, we have also the opposite, which is hold and track. So by default, it will hold the signal, and whenever the gate goes up or opens, the signal will go through. Right, so in the case of the process module, we have two options. We have track and hold, and we have hold and track. So let's really have a look at a few ideas. So the first thing we can try is adding rhythmic variation to LFOs or modulation sources, again with using track and hold. So here I have two Bleak oscillators and a Basel from Volt. I'm mixing them into a filter, and I have also some chorus, and I have an LFO opening this filter. You can see this here on the scope. Right, and now we can add some rhythm to this LFO with using track and hold, right? So the LFO, a triangle wave, is going to the track and hold or to the process module, and from the track and hold it's going once to the scope and once to the filter. Again, track and hold by default, the default state is it will just let the signal go through until a gate comes in and basically freezes or holds the value of the LFO. Right, so instead of using a clock or something like this, we will use a sequencer to gate the track and hold. I have here the 16-step sequencer from Count Modular. By the way, really quickly, I'm using the teleport modules from Little Utils to teleport the patch cables, just to make this patch a bit less overwhelming with all of the different patch cables going everywhere. So I'm using these modules, the teleport modules. Right, so I have here the sequencer. I'm going to use the gate output to gate the track and hold, and have a listen to what will happen. Right, you can see this also on the scope. Basically, the sequencer will gate the track and hold, which will hold the values of the LFOs and will create something a bit more rhythmic. Right, now to create something more repetitive, we can utilize the reset input of the LFO and basically reset the LFO so it will always start at the same point, and like this we will get something more repetitive. I will use a clock division of 4 basically to reset the LFO. So let's have a listen to this. Right, so we get something rhythmic and more repetitive. I have here another example. I have noise coming from noise plethora. Right, it's going through a VCA, and this VCA is being controlled by the LFO. Again, the LFO is going through the track and hold. You can see the result here on the scope. Right, so we get something a bit more rhythmic. In this case, I'm using the 8-step sequencer, but it has only 7 steps. So it will come in and out of phase with the reset signal, right? So this will sound like this. Right, so again, instead of just a cycling LFO, we get something a bit more rhythmic. By the way, if you're not familiar with LFOs, VCAs, gates, triggers, and so on, I have a series of videos all about the basics of modular synthesis or synthesis in the modular environment with VCV2, where I go through all of the different basic concepts, oscillators, oscillations, LFOs, modulation, sequencing, VCAs, and so on. So have a look in the description, there is also a link to that. Another example I have here is coming from Energy. I have the SEC3 sequencing Energy. Energy has built-in FM that I can modulate, and I'm using an LFO to modulate this FM, basically the timbre of this voice. I'm using in this case the wavetable LFO. You can see the shapes are moving, right? And again, track and hold, right, coming, being gated from the sequencer to get something a bit more rhythmic and repetitive. Just for fun, I sent Energy to 3 bandpass filters, just to get this nice timbre movement. It will sound like this. Right, so we get a more interesting, a more rhythmic modulation source. And of course I have here also a sort of a bass drum or a kick drum full of crunch, a tremor 2 going through the Briatus, a filter and a delay. Another fun thing you can try is create sort of pitch stutters or freeze the pitch sequence, again with track and hold, turning a repetitive sequence into something a bit more with variation. So here the sequence I'm using is board L from Bido. It's sequencing the FM operator. It will sound like this. Again, it's going through the track and hold by default will let the signal through. So the pitch information, the pitch sequence just goes through to the FM operator. But when I push this button, when I open a gate, the pitch will stay static until the gate goes down. Right, so like this you can create pitch stutters. In this case, I'm using chances from Count Modular. This will basically add probability to the incoming clock that I'm using, and this will more or less randomly gate the track and hold. Right, so we get a more interesting sequence, I guess, and it's not just repeating itself all the time. Another example here is with the 8sec from JW, right? This is sequencing kick all, and I have the ADDR sequencer, another sequencer that is set with 7 steps, right? So the pitch sequence has 8 steps, the gate sequence will have 7 steps, so they will meet each other in different places, and the pitch will be frozen at different places with different pitches, or pitch information, I guess. Right, if I solo this, right, without the track and hold, repetitive 8-step sequence with the track and hold. Right, a bit more interesting. In previous videos, I'm not so sure which one it was already, I used the gates module to add crunch to the sound. So this is exactly what I'm doing here with kick all, just to add another layer. Right? Just to add another layer to the sound. And another example here I have with random pitch information. Right, so I have the random module from VCV, basically outputting random signals. And again, I'm using track and hold to freeze this sequence, but here I'm using a clock division, so it will play a few random notes and it will stop, and play a few random notes and will stop or will hold at one pitch, right, at one note. The voice itself is the VCO going through a wave shaper from Volt called Wolf. I will solo this. Right, so it will play a few notes and then will stay at one pitch or at one note. Just like we can freeze pitch, we can also freeze rhythmic sequences, sorts of gate sequences, or create one-shot sequences with track and hold. So here I have Eugene, which is a Euclidean sequencer. It's sequencing Opolus, going through some delay. It will sound like this. Right, and now again, whenever the gate is high on the track and hold, it will just freeze or stop or hold the sequence in this case, because this is a trigger sequence. Right, so like this we can create one-shot sequences or basically create more variation. Here I have a clock divided by 10, and this will gate the track and hold. Right, creating variation, adding space to sequences instead of them just playing over and over again. Another example I have here, I'm using Tremor 2 as a voice. It's a beautiful voice, Tremor 2. It will also follow 1 volt per octave. It's much more than just a drum synthesizer. Anyway, I have one sequencer for pitch information, and this is going through Quantum, and Quantum will basically take the changes in pitch and translate them also into triggers. So whenever there is a change in pitch, it will output also triggers. Whenever the pitch doesn't change, when we freeze it with the track and hold, the triggers will also stop. So like this, we can also gate the sequence. And the sequencer I'm using for gating the track and hold is another ADDR sequencer. So it will sound like this. I will solo it. Right, you can hear those gaps in the sequence without the track and hold. And now with. Right, I also have here some delay on this voice. Right. And another example here, I have random pitch information coming from the random module. Right, also the triggers are coming from the random module, but they are basically just a clock. The voice itself is kick all, going through some delay, and I have a clock division of 16 gating the track and hold, gating this trigger sequence, basically creating a one-shot sequence that will re-trigger every 16th division. Let me just solo this. Right, now it will stop. Without delay maybe. Now it will stop. And then it will play again. Right, so like this you can gate sequences, you can create one-shot sequences, you can add space, you can add variation with track and hold. Of course there is much more to explore, but that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, have a look at the link in the description for the document full of patching techniques and ideas, and I keep on updating it. That's it. Thank you again so much. Cheers.